Welcome to episode number 64, and in today's episode, I'm going to give you 5 of my favorite books on personal development, on business, on leadership. Stay tuned. So the big question is, how do ambitious people like us, who grew up listening to the old advice of go to school, work hard for 40 years, and retire when you're old, create a life today that is meaningful, abundant, healthy, and brings joy, while also leading a life that is productive and full of achievement? That is the question, and this is the podcast that will help give you the answers that you're searching for. My name is Del Denny, and welcome to the Upgrade Your Life podcast. Hey, Del Denny here, and again, welcome to the Upgrade Your Life podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about books. Now, people ask me all the time, hey, do you have any good book recommendations? And so this is going to be one of those episodes where I'm going to give you 5 of my favorite books that I've read through the years. Now, a little background, I've finished about a book a week for the last, I don't know how many years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. I gobble up books. I love reading. I love listening to Audible. I love physical books. Every now and then I'll read a Kindle book on my phone, but for the most part, it's on Audible or it's a physical book, and there's something fun about that. And an interesting statistic is that, if the average person reads 1.2 books a year, the average person, yet the average CEO reads 50 books a year. Now, that's a crazy statistic there, and that's really the secret sauce to getting ahead in life, is just reading books. That knowledge just compounds through the years, and not only do you get that knowledge, but it also makes your brain fire. It's just, there's so much to that, and so I can't recommend this any more than reading. But anyways, what I'm going to share with you today is 5 books that have made a huge impact on my life, and I hope you enjoy these. And at the very end, I'll also share a link with you about some other books that I recommend as well. So I'm going to give you 5 books right now. Now, here's the first one. The first book that really did it for me as a entrepreneur was the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's the number 1 best-selling financial book of all time. I think I was 21 years old when I first read it, and it just spoke to me. Now, it's more of a mindset book, and it really talks about the difference of investing in assets versus liabilities, and his definition of an asset versus a liability is very different than what society mentions. An asset is anything that puts money into our pocket, and a liability is anything that takes money out of our pocket. It's a pretty simple concept, and it goes through some other analogies and whatnot. But for me, when I first got started in business, it really cleared things up of, okay, I want to be an investor. I want my money to work for me. And so I got really excited about that book, and I shared it with all my friends and family. I even paid my sister $100 to read the book because I felt that strongly about the book, because I can tell you it has definitely helped put me on a path financially that I'm very grateful for. And so that's the very first book. So if you want to get your finances right, and you want to think a little bit differently like investors, definitely recommend that book. The first one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I'll put some links in the show notes for you guys to link over to. Now, the second book that has really made an impact on my life is, it's a classic book. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that's by Dale Carnegie. And I read this when I was 20 years old, I believe. I've read this a few times, and it's such a well-written book. It's very simple, and it just talks about how to influence people, how to talk with people. It's a really interesting book, and every day I think about that book. There's like these little nuggets. It's just a book of a bunch of little nuggets, how to influence people. I'll give you one, for example. Dale Carnegie says that the sweetest word in someone's own dictionary is their own name. And basically, it means this. It means that when you're dealing with someone, you're working with someone, call them by name. Now imagine when you walk into a room, you haven't seen someone in a week or a month or whatever it is, and they say, "Hey," and they call your name out and they wave and they motion for you to come over. Well, when they say your name, there's something that feels good about that you're recognized, that you're remembered. And so when you use other people's names, it's the same concept. And so when you do that, you build that connection much more. And this book is just chock full of tidbits and nuggets of how to connect better with people. And I absolutely love this book. If you're in sales, this is a great sales book. If you're working with people in general, you may not be in sales. Maybe it's just connecting with your coworkers. This is a fantastic book. So I highly, highly recommend it. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Third book. This is a leadership book. This is by the guru himself, John C. Maxwell. It's called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I've read a lot of leadership books. This is like my favorite topic to study is leadership. And this is hands down the number one best book for leadership, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It is so well written. And if you want to be a leader, this is the book for you. If you don't think you're a leader, this is also the book for you. It just talks about how leadership is influence. He gives you 21 strategies to become a better leader. These 21 laws, if you will. And I've that's another one I use every day, thinking about where I'm at on the leadership scale and how I can improve in these different scenarios. So if you want to be a better leader, highly, highly recommend The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Now, my fourth book that I'm going to recommend today is called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I remember when I first saw this, when Tim Ferriss was first promoting this book, he got a lot of flack because, how 40 hours is standard work. You got to hustle, you got to grind. And he's like, well, really, you just need 4 hours. And he just talks about efficiency. He talks about using the internet. He talks about, the old model of a 40-hour work week is antiquated. And efficiency is the key. And so this book is full of efficiencies. And I'll give you an example. My voicemail on my phone is a result of reading the 4-Hour Workweek. And the reason being is the email, it basically says, when you listen to my voicemail, feel free to leave me a voicemail, but email me. I give my email address in my voicemail. That way, that I can answer when they email me back, I can give them a quick response back. So imagine if you got a phone call and as soon as you answer the phone, you're catching up, you're building rapport, you're asking how the family's doing, and it takes 5-10 minutes before you get into the actual need or the question or the whole point of the phone call, right? And so there's a lot of time that is wasted on phone calls. But in an email, I can look at my email whenever I choose to look at it. The second thing is all those other little things, the time wasters is gone because you can just reply back with your email. And so that's one of the things that I like for efficiency's sake that I learned from the 4-Hour Workweek. And he goes into a lot more than that. Highly recommend that. And he also Tim Ferriss has a phenomenal podcast as well. So if you're listening to this podcast, definitely recommend his podcast. Now, the fifth book that I'm going to recommend today is a book by Grant Cardone called The 10X Rule. Very, very popular book, and it's about setting goals. And it's about thinking bigger and doing bigger. 10Xing whatever you're thinking about. He says, if you think you need $100,000, well, why not set the goal for $1 million? The same effort that it takes to make $100,000 is the same effort it's going to take to make $1 million. And he just blasts example after example after example. And when you read that book, you're going to walk away feeling inspired. You're going to feel like, oh, I do need to think bigger. I can achieve more. And so that's a great book. So those are the 5 books I'm going to recommend for you guys. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, The 4-Hour Work Week, and The 10X Rule. Those are great. And as you can see, those are just my flavor of books. Those are business books. Those are personal development books. And, to each his own. I'm also going to include in the show notes, if you want to check it out, 50 of my favorite books. It's a quick download. And you can see if you want more book recommendations, I got that there for you. Whenever people ask me for book recommendations, I send that on over to them. So check in the show notes if you want some more book recommendations. I'll link it in the show notes. But that's it, my friends. I hope you liked those book recommendations. Feel free to send me some book recommendations as well. Tweet me. Instagram, Facebook, send me a message, DM me, do whatever it takes. I would love to know what is your favorite book. So that's it, my friends. Remember, learn, lead, and live to your full potential. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes to get automatic episode updates for the Upgrade Your Life podcast. And finally, please take a minute to leave us an honest review and rating on iTunes. Your feedback really helps us out when it comes to the ranking of the show, and I make it a point to read every single one of the reviews that we get. So thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me on the Upgrade Your Life podcast. Have a great day.